Good morning and welcome to our webinar, Tools to Automate and Elevate Your Marketing Efforts, which is featuring Sarah Close, our Director of Digital Strategy. My name is Martha Herdendorf and I'm the Marketing Coordinator here at Top Floor, and I will be helping to facilitate everything today. Before we get started, know that there will be a dedicated time at the end of today's webinar for questions, but if you think of something during the presentation, feel free to submit through the control panel. And go ahead and send your questions at any time during the presentation, but we'll save the time to answer them for the end. Additionally, we are trying something new today, and we'll be doing a few poll questions throughout the webinar, so make sure to watch out for those as well. So with that, I will now turn things right over to Sarah.
Oh, thanks. So I'm Sarah Close. I'm the Director of Digital Strategy here at Top Floor. So I work with our clients to really kind of figure out what their goals are for the year, and then figuring out what makes sense as far as the marketing efforts that we're doing and how we're going to help reach those goals, and then work with our team here to kind of execute all those tasks for that. So a little disclaimer before I get started into this. I'm going to be going through a lot and talking about specific plugins, mostly that are specific to WordPress, as well as some that are also for Drupal. So instead of looking at the tools and the plugins that I'm talking about, what I want you to just think about throughout this is really just the functionality behind everything and the concept, and how you can kind of use that throughout your website, no matter what CMS you have, and just anything that can be custom built to beyond just these plugins specifically. So in today's digital world, there's so much going on. It's full of disruptions, information overload. It's super easy to be bogged down by daily tasks. Before you know it, it's noon, you haven't moved anything forward. So it's really key to, really have a detailed strategy to make sure that you're on task and you'll be able to reach those goals. So what I'm going to talk about today is how to learn use different technologies to kind of go from what you see here is content information overload guy to this guy here, being able to kind of sit back. By the end of this, I hope you'll be able to kind of implement some of these so that you'll be able to kind of move some of these tasks that bog us down daily, automate it so you guys can really focus on some big picture items that's really going to elevate and move your marketing efforts further. So when I talk about automation today, I'm not going to be talking about kind of those big price tag type software programs, so the HubSpots, the Pardots, things like that. What I'm really talking about is just things that you can automate that's really going to save you time. So a recent study that was out here is, the highest benefit is really taking repetitive tasks off of marketers' hands and allowing them to focus on, new and more exciting projects. So that's really what I'm going to be focusing on here when I talk about any kind of automation throughout this presentation. So before we get started, I'm going to go through a lot of tools here. And what I don't want to happen is for you to just kind of say, okay, we need to take all these tools and I need to implement them all right away and it's going to be great. Before, we need to really understand and think about what your goals are and what you're really trying to achieve, and kind of take it slow and kind of baby steps to make sure that what you're trying to implement, that you have the right tool that's actually going to help that goal. So some of those goals that you might have, whether it's, you're just trying to increase your contact lists, maybe you're just trying to increase your social engagement this year, or maybe it's kind of more, generic as far as, you're going to be really strategic and you're going to do a lot more testing this year. No matter what those goals are, basically there's an app for that. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of these top apps that we've used here and through some of our marketing programs, and really show you how, what they do and how these tools can help you accomplish those goals. So the first one here is something called SumoMe. It's available both within the Drupal CMS and WordPress CMS. What it's really great for is lead generation. It's able to, they've got a lot of different suites involved with it that, can help you generate leads, build your contact list, and increase any kind of newsletter sign-ups. So what it is, again, it's a suite of different tools that once you have this, there's a lot of great things inside of it. So some of the ones that I'm going to specifically talk about today are the shares, which is having to do with social media, the smart bar and the list builder, which is helping with a lot of email signups, newsletter submissions, anything like that. So the first one I'm going to get to is called List Builder inside of here. And basically what this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a tool to help you build your lists. So inside of these plugins, you can really outline and really design all of these different pop-ups basically that you can create throughout your website that matches all of your branding. So what this is really great for is if you don't have the development behind you to kind of set some of these things up, these are really great tools for you to be able to implement without having to get any heavy development involved. So you can set up these. There's a lot of great things inside of here as far as being able to manage, you know, what form fields show up here, what the design looks like, what the message says. You can also set different behaviors and display rules. So what that means is that basically you can say, okay, only show this on screens larger than, you know, 600 pixels. So you're making sure that if someone's on a mobile device, they're not getting this giant pop-up that they can't X out of or anything like that. You can also set up things that what's called the intent to leave a site. So when someone's looking at your content and they're looking through it, they're not instantly when they come there bogged down by a pop-up that's annoying them now. They only see this when they start scrolling back up and kind of that intent to leave your website, and it's kind of that last instance to capture them and engage with them a little bit more before they leave. So there's a lot of really great things inside of here that you can do and kind of work with and kind of test to see what works best for your website in order to try to capture more information from your audience. And if you're like me, of course, you know, don't be annoying. You probably hate these pop-ups. So really think about where you're putting them. So, you know, don't obsess over your audience. Don't every page they go to make sure that there's a pop-up and keep bugging them, and don't, you know, be creepy and be annoying. So make sure that when you are setting these rules, if you're going to use something like this, that it's meaningful to the page that they're on and that you're really thinking about that user. One thing that's really great, that since I put this slide together a few months back, so SumoMe, there's a paid version and a free version, and basically, this really shows the power both of Twitter as well as the SumoMe's dedication to its users. The paid version was the only way that you could connect your email integrations. So it would harvest emails for you in the back end of, say, WordPress. And what you would have to do to get those into something like MailChimp is you'd have to go in and export and then re-import into MailChimp. So they actually just released not that long ago with the free version that you can now sync MailChimp or any kind of email program directly with that. So when people are signing up through these pop-ups, they go right into your email programs. Another version of this is something called Smart Bar. So Smart Bar is, you know, kind of the same concept, but instead of an annoying pop-up, what we see is just this small little bar either at the top or the bottom or the side, wherever you really want to place it. It has all the same kind of functionalities and features. So different designs that you can create that's going to be specific to your branding, colors, look and feel, as well as you can, again, manage what fields are here. Is it just email addresses you want to ask for? Is it contact names, job titles, whatever that might be? You can totally customize this 100% to kind of really be geared towards what that page is and what you're trying to harvest from your users. The next one here is something called Share inside of this suite. And basically, you probably saw this all over, you know, a lot of websites, is the options to have social share bars either alongside the rail of your site. As you scroll through, it kind of follows you, or what converts into mobile is kind of that standard at the bottom, and it stays as you're scrolling through the page. So what this really does is it helps to be able to get more engagement on your website and really help increase your shares of your content in a social way. So what you can do is you can really customize these based on what your audience is. If you're like, okay, Facebook doesn't make sense for my business, I don't really want to show that or give that as an option, you can delete it from that bar. And there's a whole suite of different tools and services that you can share, even things like sending text messages straight from it as well. So a lot of great things in here that you can do and customize for that. And then there's different rules, again, that you can set that if, you know, you don't want it to show on mobile, or if you only want it to show in certain places or certain pages, you could definitely do that. And then they also have a really great tracking program inside of it as well that allows you to see devices, pages, etc. that people are on, and then what garnished the most shares and the most social engagement through all of it. So with that, this is where we're going to utilize one of those polls. So we implemented this for one of the clients that we had here, and what we did was we used SmartBar as well as the List Builder app. And what we did instead of what they basically had before was just what a lot of people have, and I think is kind of the default, is just a newsletter sign up in the footer of their website. So we replaced that with some of these different features here. And if you guys want to just pick which one you think of how much of an increase we saw in newsletter signups with this poll or with this new plugin.
Okay, it looks like about half of you have voted. So we'll wait a couple more seconds. All right, I'm going to close the poll.
And the winner is?
The winner was with 88% between 50 and 100%.
All right. So these are, we actually saw by replacing this a 760% increase in newsletter signups. I think a lot of you would say that, you know, the left side of this graph, or the beginning of this graph, is probably what you guys see currently as far as engagement with those typical newsletter signups. You know, maybe lucky to get 1, maybe 3 per month to sign up. As you can see, this definitely spiked by just being able to make it, you know, more in front of them, more often, more visual, and kind of easier for them to find and sign up for these newsletters. So definitely a great thing, and I know you're thinking, oh, I'm goats, this is awesome, but there's more. We also implemented the social shares, doing the same, and, you know, we got normally about, you know, 8 or 9 coming in as far as people sharing our content. And then once we implemented the social shares functionality of this, we started to see that skyrocket again, 26 to over 32 over the last month there. So yes, blow them goats. So the next one here is called Title Experiments. This is a tool. It is only available on WordPress, but again, think of, you know, the functionality behind it. That's really great for being able to increase your traffic. It's going to be really great to increase engagement and really increase your social shares from it. So headlines are super important. They attract people to read the rest of your content. They make sure you engage with your audience, providing that user activity really your website needs. So they really make sure that your article gets shared around the web. And what this really is an A/B testing tool. So we all hear about A/B testing, and you know, we probably feel like this. You start out, you get all this content ready. You got all these headlines. You're like, yes, this is going to be great. I've got 5 different headlines I'm going to test, or 5 different versions of these posts. And you're like, I'm going to Bill Nye the Science out of this. You get super excited. You put it all in, and then you sit there and you're patient. You're going to say, okay, I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And you're like, okay, now I have to look. I can't wait anymore. I need to know what's happening. And then you find yourself like this. And you're going, okay, is it 1 or is it 2? Is it 2 or is it 3? Is it 3 or is it 1? And you're totally discouraged. You're totally lost, and you just don't know what's working, what's not working. and you find yourself almost giving up. You come to that point that you're just like, the limit, it doesn't exist, and then you just go back to what you were doing before. I think we've all been there where we're like really anxious to do A/B testing. We get super frustrated with it because we don't understand how to really judge the data, and then we just fall back into our old patterns. So it really inspired me to find a tool that worked for things like this, is this email. This is an email that I have gotten from a client a few years back, and it goes, hey Sarah, I have a question for you. I hear all about A/B testing, trying different phrases, title lengths, word choices for getting the most hits, all these SEO optimization tests and trials to run on content. And I can't figure out who is the audience this testing is being done on. Is this a magical trial environment land where exciting people who press the button they prefer? Or are companies pushing out live versions of titles they want to test, collecting and modifying to optimize, and constantly updating or changing titles to make it the best? So this really kind of pushed me to, okay, everyone has the same problem, and I'm going to find a solution or some kind of, introductory A/B testing tool that just gets people thinking a little bit more and can kind of start harvesting some of this data. So that's where the Title Experiments app comes in. What it does is basically it adds multiple lines within WordPress that you can set up multiple headlines all at once in the back end. And you can set different rules for this as well. So you can say, hey, run this for X number of days, and then you can even say after X number of days, whatever one's the winner, just revert to that and show that from here on out. Or you can take it manually and you can look at it and really kind of see what's happening. So it's just a great way to kind of get some ideas as far as who's clicking, what kind of titles, and what are they engaging with when they are there. And I know a lot of people are freaking out right now, like, oh my gosh, these are my H1s of my page. This is going to kill my SEO. It actually is SEO friendly, and they've got a lot of different structure behind it that it shouldn't affect any kind of negative impact for your SEO when you're running these different tests. So I have a few samples here. These aren't our samples, but they're just samples from the app as far as different case studies that they've had. So the first one here, if we want to launch the poll, is experiment. The two different titles. There's Title A and there's Title B. So Title A, what one do you think outperformed the other? Was it how I use this blog to replace my day job? Or was it how I grew this blog from $100 a month to a full-time income? Okay, so go ahead and vote. I feel like we should have music during this.
We should. All right, just a couple more seconds. And I'm going to close the poll. Thanks for voting. And it looks like the winner was option B with 78%.
Wrong. So this is a prime example of, we think that we know what a right title is, and we are possibly going to guess 80% of the time wrong. So the winner actually was option A here. We have two more samples. We'll run through this pretty fast here. But the next one in here is A, get organized with the best, or B, clean, bright, organized. All right, go ahead and submit your votes. All right, I'm going to close the poll up. And the winner here was B again with 83%. We need a buzzer. Again, prime example of why we need to do more A/B testing to really get those right results. And then we got one more. Last try to regain yourself here. Is it A, passionate about betting? We are too. Make more money on your bets, get free betting tips, or stop losing money on your bets, get daily betting tips. This one's hard. I wonder what this is. Go ahead and vote. I can't vote. I know the answer. Tighter competition this time. Okay, I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. Right. I'm going to close it.
Okay, and the winner here was B again with 56% this time.
Yay! All right, cool. So we really talk about the benefits of this and how we really know, you can tell from the experiment that we went through, that we're not always going to know what the right headlines and titles should be and what our audience really wants and looks for. So with this, we have one more actually right after this. We implemented something like this just to test, a little bit of test run. It wasn't this exact tool, but just being able to kind of utilize the functionality here and the mindset of this tool to implement for one of our clients here. And by that, and running this, do you think we got under a 25% increase in clicks to the content? Was it between 25 and 75, or was it over 100?
Okay. Votes are rolling in. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. And the winner here was option C, over 100%.
Those are too good. So yes, we saw a 220% increase in the amount of clicks that we were getting from where we were sharing this to the content with the A/B testing. So you can kind of see the graph here showing, where we were trending and what we were doing normally before without testing some of these, and then what we were able to kind of skyrocket basically from implementing some A/B testing for these. Gruel, right? So the third one here that I have is called Publicize. It's by Jetpack. It's a social media automation tool. I can't say that. So what it's really used for, and it's great for, and a lot of people think that it's just WordPress, but it's actually Drupal as well, is that it increases your social media traffic, and it can increase your social media engagement. So if a lot of people out there, I'm sure, I know Martha here specifically, is like, how am I going to fit social media into already the busy schedule that we have here? And it's crazy. The average marketer spends over an hour per blog post that they have to schedule social media posts, to go in, whether it's they're scheduling them throughout different channels, they're writing different posts for each. But basically, it goes back down to, about an hour each post that we're doing. So if you're like us and you're posting, once a week, that's 4 hours a week that you're blowing on being able to schedule all these social media posts out. So what if you can get that hour back, right? What would you do with that extra hour? You could go have lunch with a partner or a colleague. You could catch up on your emails. You could brainstorm some really cool ideas with some colleagues. Or if you just want to, have a sanity break during that point, you could listen to 16 covers of Taylor Swift's Shake It Off. Or you could watch a third of The Hobbit. So no matter what you want to do with that hour, I'm here to kind of show you how to get that back. So with this, what it is, when you implement it into your CMS, is you're going to see this kind of new option when you're posting a blog. And what it's going to do is it's going to ask you, one, what social accounts you want to connect with it. So there's all kinds of different options: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And every time now you're going to see this new thing come up here where you're going to write out what the post is that belongs to this blog for each one of these channels. And then say you have a blog post that you're in WordPress right now, you're scheduling out for next week. Once you have this implemented, you can go out and fill all these information pieces or all these blocks out within here and then schedule it. And then once it does publish next week, it's also going to publish out on all of your social media channels automatically. So if that in itself isn't time saving, wait, there's more, because there's another tool that what we like to really use together with this is something called Revive Old Posts. So where Publicize is really great for that initial post, and you can schedule it all out and get it out there instantly. Revive Old Posts is great for republishing throughout. So it increases a lot of content exposure and increases your social media engagement. So what it does is it automatically shares your content, right? So going back to that hour a week per blog just to schedule out social media posts, the average person spends about 6 hours or more a week on social media. So going back from the hour, you can now probably watch the entire Habit with this. So what it does is basically it supports a lot of, again, different platforms, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And when you set up this plugin, you can, really set rules. You can say, all right, I have a category and it's for SEO on my blog. And when I post a new blog there, it's going to harvest into kind of this bucket. And then I can set rules to say, hey, within this bucket of this category of blog posts, reshare randomly all these blog posts onto my social media channels, and let's say every 3 days post one. Or for something like Twitter, it might make sense to post more often. So for Twitter, you might say, okay, post 3 times per day and pull from this category specifically. One thing when setting this up is if you don't have categories for your content, I really wouldn't recommend this because there are going to be different blogs that are kind of more timely or news related. If you do anything that's about holidays and try to relate upcoming holidays to some of your posts, you might want to have a seasonal category in itself. And then what you can do is you can exclude those from being able to be pulled and posted. So you're not looking, kind of stupid with a post that's getting scheduled now about Halloween. So there's a lot of different rules and a lot of different functionalities that you can use that's just going to take your content and post it out so you don't really have to worry about a lot. But then obviously make sure that you know what's being shared and really watch it to make sure that you're not sharing things that aren't relevant anymore. So we did this. We have a little bit less of options here. But what we did was we were able to increase the number of blog visits from social media just by posting more and being able to get things out instantly with implementing these tools. So do you think it was under 25% of an increase in blog visits, between 25 and 50%, or over 50%?
All right, go ahead and vote for me. Okay, just a couple more seconds. The votes are rolling in. Okay, looks like the winner was C, over 50%. Not C, I guess.
Tricked you.
Tricked you.
It's been C this whole time, except now. So it wasn't over 50, but it was still a 40% increase that we were able to see just by the frequency we're able to get out and be able to be posting a lot more content out there. So moving on to the next one here, something that was formerly called Leadin actually now is basically HubSpot free. So a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to purchase HubSpot. There is some free aspects to it that's actually really nice. If you don't have a marketing automation platform of any kind, so if you don't have something like Pardot or anything like that, this is a good way for you to kind of dabble within your company first, to kind of start out and see what's available and what you guys can get working before you're committing to something like that. And we do use it with a few of our clients here just to get an idea of where leads are coming from more specifically. So one of the things is, the most important strategic goal of marketing automation is increasing leads, no-brainer, nurturing leads, no-brainer, and then sales revenue. So this is definitely a tool that's going to help with all three of these. If you're like me, when someone asks you, hey, what has marketing contributed to our pipeline this month? You find yourself, trying to crawl in a hole and hide because you don't have the data sometimes. You can guess, you can, ask specifically, but a lot of the times it's just not there. So what HubSpot and the free version of does, it's able to really see who's been on your website, and then once they make some kind of contact, they're able to pull data and say, okay, once they're a contact, going backwards in time, where they were on your website and where initially got them to the website. So it's really great for being able to go backwards and see how a lead actually came through specific campaigns, specific channels, things like that. And then it's just more, context too for your sales team. When a lead does come through, you can go back into this and you can say, oh, okay, it looks like they were looking at my website development page. When I reach out to them, I know exactly, what blogs they were looking at and what they might be interested in. And then they have a lot of cool customized reports that you can pull to just get some insights as far as, what's contributing to the leads coming through the most. And then it does connect with email programs as well. So it's really nice. So how does this work? Basically, when you sign up for the free version of this, you start by creating a lead flow. So there's different versions of a lead flow. It's kind of similar to what we talked about with SumoMe in the beginning with the list builders. But basically, you can pick one of these 4 options. And it's either a pop-up box, it's a drop-down banner, it's a sidebar that pops up or shoots up from the right or from the left. And when you're building these out, again, it's fully customizable to a point where you can pick your colors, you can say what the box says, you can even add an image if you want. So again, it's just an option to be able to kind of put these lead capture pieces on your site without an extensive amount of development time that you might have to go through. And then once you design all of that, what it does is you set up rules for this one lead flow specifically. Say it's a content marketing ebook that we have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, show it specifically on pages that match these URLs. And what I can do is I can pick the URLs on my website that talk about content marketing and make sure that this only shows if someone's looking at something related to content marketing. And then I can also do things like, okay, only trigger this once they scroll down and get 50% down my page, then trigger this pop-up. Or you can say after they've been on my website for X number of seconds. So you're captivating them a little bit, you're making sure that they're interested and they're really reading the content and they're engaged before you're kind of bogging them down with asking for some of this stuff. You can also opt out, which I kind of recommend if you're just going to set this up because it does have some issues, is to disable it when it's on smaller screens, so mobile devices. It's not the greatest user experience at this point. I guess it's going to be site to site. So if you're not going to disable this, I would make sure that you test what it really looks like and make sure that you can X out of things if needed. So once you have that, you pretty much hit publish, and there's a little snippet of code that goes on your website, and basically it's live. It's live right on your website, and you don't really need a developer to initiate any of these things. And you can set up as many lead flows as you want. So here's kind of just a basic, idea of how something like this works. So it tracks visitors anonymously. So if someone's on your website, it's not going to give you information instantly, but it's going to hit them with a cookie on that website. So if they come back 5 days from now, they're going to know it's the same person, etc. And what it's going to do is the second that they fill out a form, it's actually super smart, where it starts looking at where else that email address is that was triggered, and it tries to pull in as much information for you as possible. So I put in my personal email here, and it pulled up a picture, it pulled up my title, my description, as far as that's from Twitter it found. So it's trying to be as smart as possible to get you as much information about that user as it can. And then it also is going to give you a report that's going to say, okay, where were they? What website, where do they come in originally? So for this one example, the traffic source is direct. I went there directly. But this would be where it would say, okay, it was an organic search. It was my PPC campaign. It was LinkedIn, etc. And then I'll show you what pages that they visited before they actually made that contact and were initiated through this. So again, a lot of great insights. And it's definitely something that is going to take you out of the hiding bush and be able to, when someone asks about, what marketing's contributed, you'll be able to have a full list of contacts specifically for each different channel or each different campaign that you're running to really show the worth of that. So again, if you're not doing anything like this, I think this is a great opportunity or a great way for you to just kind of dabble in it before you are super committed into a big automation program. The next one here is called Zapier. A lot of you might be familiar with it. There's a few other different tools that kind of do the same thing. One is called If This Then That. It's not really anything that connects with your website specifically. It is kind of just a third-party website that you go to and sign up for an account. But what it's great for is really time-saving and organization. So I started reading this book called Disruptive Marketing, and what really stood out to me to kind of find ways to, or really to find this plugin, was that they basically said, 60% of us waste, 6+ hours a week on just menial tasks, repetitive tasks, and we're not feeling like we're doing or getting anything done or accomplished. So what this app does is you sign up for an account basically, and you can connect all different programs and softwares that you use to initiate and automate, workflows. So it allows you to kind of build processes and smarter processes so you don't have to do repetitive tasks over and over and over again. You set it up once, and then it will trigger things for you to be able to do. So I'll run through a few examples in a second here, but basically what it does is it supports over 750 different apps. So you can kind of see a sample set here of some of the things. So you might use Evernote to be taking notes. You might use MailChimp to set up your emails. Some of your social media accounts can be pulled into here. If you're e-commerce, things like Shopify. If you do have a CRM, it pulls in from CRM stuff as well, Dropbox, Google Drive, Google Sheets. Basically anything you can think of is probably in here. So a great CRM, Zap, these are called Zaps when you create them, this is actually probably one of my favorites. So Facebook and LinkedIn actually too now have something called lead ads, where instead of setting up a normal ad like you would before, where it was, you linked off the user, if they saw your ad on Facebook, they would click and go to your website. They have something now where it's integrated right into Facebook so that the user doesn't have to go away from Facebook. They're meant to, when they're in Facebook, they're in a mindset, they're scrolling through, they don't want to leave the app. So they created a new ad where you could just, as a user on Facebook, click, yes, I'm interested, sign me up, or yes, send that to me. And then it would pull their email addresses, and then it would initiate what you would set up to send to them. The bad part is now we have all of these contacts sitting inside of Facebook, and they're kind of stuck there unless someone remembers to go grab them and add them to your CRM. So there's apps that can be set up to pull that stuff instantly right out of those ads into whatever CRM that you have, whether it's Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce, whatever that is. So it's definitely a time saver. Otherwise, we would be going in, daily or weekly even to pull these contacts out, import them, and assign them inside of these. Another one here is specifically for Gravity Forms. So Gravity Forms, I'm sure a lot of you use, especially if you have WordPress. It's just a form builder that you use for contact forms, etc. on websites. So what this does is be able to connect against CRMs instantly and easily with any type of form that's being filled out and goes right into your CRM. I'm going to run through some of these so we don't run out of time. But another one, Unbounce. If you're not familiar with what that is, we use that here. It's a tool to build landing pages. It's really great if you feel that you don't have a page on your website that's really going to be geared towards a specific campaign that you're going after, or if you don't have a website that's mobile responsive right now. We set up landing pages, and what that does is you can add, contact forms on these landing pages, but again, you're stuck with the same thing that I was talking about earlier with Facebook, where now all these contacts are sitting inside of Unbounce. Well, yeah, you get email notifications, etc., but if you have a CRM, you want them in that CRM. So it's another way for them to, once they fill out a form here, it's going to send a Zap, and it's going to initiate to pull those right into Salesforce or something for you. I'm just going to fly through a few. This one's a good one too. So if you have a CRM platform, but you don't have the corresponding marketing automation platform, and you use something like MailChimp, you can again connect this to say, okay, when someone adds a new contact in our Salesforce, it's automatically going to trigger and add them to an email list inside of MailChimp. Some project management examples, two tools that we use here, it's really helpful, is Basecamp activities to Slack channels. So Slack, if you don't know what that is kind of like an internal messaging app that companies use. And Basecamp is kind of where we use for client correspondence and to-do lists and things like that. So sometimes, it makes sense that if a client does something in Basecamp, or if someone adds a file in Basecamp, it's going to trigger and throw it right into our messaging app and notify the team on that program that something's happening in that channel. So it's kind of an instant notification. Another sample of that would be if you use something like Evernote to do taking notes or all. What you can do is, you're sitting in a meeting, you're taking notes with an Evernote, you created these to-do lists, but now you use something like Basecamp to actually create those to-dos. You can now set up a Zap to go directly when you save that Evernote right into Basecamp to-dos. So again, taking, probably an hour of time just scheduling out tasks and to-dos for people after these meetings. There's a few other samples in here. We're just going to skip them for the time being. You'll get the slide deck so you can kind of go through all of them afterwards. The next one here is something called Yoast. It's available both for Drupal, again, and WordPress. And basically, this is what we use from an SEO tool. So being able to make sure that we have the ability and that we're really looking at things from an organic standpoint, as well as from a social engagement standpoint to make sure that our pages are optimized accordingly. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Yoast. It basically gives you fields, so again, you don't have to custom develop this stuff, to add things like your title tags, your meta descriptions, and it'll give you kind of a scorecard in a way too to make sure that they're optimized appropriately for what you're really trying to focus on for that term or that page. One thing that a lot of people don't know Yoast for, they just kind of plug this in and go a little bit from this. A lot of it's automated. But one of the things that I don't really know about is that it also has a social media part to it, which is actually super important. So Facebook, I want to say recently, but I have no sense of time lately. It was probably back in August maybe, just changed based on this fake news thing that was happening where people would share links on Facebook and they would change the headlines to the links, they would change the pictures to the links just to get you to click. And it was kind of like clickbait. So Facebook changed, LinkedIn's changed, and now you can't change those titles that pre-populate and those images that pre-populate. So to make sure that you're sharing a blog and it's getting shared the right way, what you have to do is inside of Yoast, there's the social media tab, and it's the same way as for SEO. You have, again, your titles, your descriptions, and then what image is going to be pulled there. So it's really a great tool to be able to do that, so that you make sure that when people are sharing your content, when you're sharing your own content, that everything is on brand and you're posting the thing that makes sense for that page specifically. So here's an example here. One is on the right side of what the website looks like for ours, and then what we had in the past as far as when you shared that link. What it was doing was pulling the title, and then it was just taking the first few sentences of that post, and then it wasn't even being able to find an image, or when it was finding an image, it was pulling something like our logo or whatever. Kind of had a mind of its own in a way. So to be able to do this, we were able to take that and make sure that when we did share a link, it had that nice image corresponding to it, and it looked more like what our website was presenting. And we were able to create different descriptions and test different descriptions as far as, again, what was getting clicked and what was getting shared the most. Wrong way. And then also, a lot of people don't know inside of the Yoast plugin, there's a lot of different configurations that really go back to the SEO point to make sure that things are getting crawled by Google, they're getting ranked well by Google, that things are just getting seen or not seen. And a lot of the times, people don't know if these things exist, and a lot of other pages and behind-the-scenes pages that might not even exist on your website are getting indexed and crawled, and visitors are getting to them. So it's just a way for us to kind of take a look at some of the behind-the-scenes, kind of more technical aspect of things, and kind of show different things or exclude different things, and just make sure that the accessibility of the website is optimal for Google and other search engines to crawl. The next one here is called Related Posts. So this is another one here that, again, can be accomplished in a lot of different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be through this plugin, but it's great for if you have, content marketing as a big initiative, or if you're just trying to get more visitor engagement. So what it does is it tries to, and it's actually really smart the way it does it, is it automatically grabs and pulls other posts or related posts to to the content that's on a page. So going back to the content marketing example, if we have a blog post out there that's talking about content marketing, and what we want to do is make sure that there's other related posts out there. What you could do naturally is be able to just pull, categories within WordPress and say, okay, show other blogs that are categorized in content marketing, or say inside of this blog, we're talking specifically about how PPC connects with content marketing. That might not get pulled then. So what this does is it allows it to kind of look at different keywords and phrases that you're using within your blog post to try and relate corresponding blogs to that specific blog post. So it has the automation side of it and trying to get, really smart about what it's going to be displaying based on what they're reading. And then also if for some reason it's not working the way you want it to work, you can also select per blog post that you write which related blog post you want to show here. So it's a really great way to increase the content and the visibility and get people engaging with more than one page of your website. So it's kind of a sample here. A lot of the times we write posts and we reference something and we do like a link, a text link within the content that you can kind of barely see, but it's hidden over here on the left. And instead of doing something like that, what we did is we initiated these related post features to be able to show throughout that content. And as you can see, it's more visually appealing. You can see it right away. You can glance at it and oh yeah, that actually is related to something that I'm looking for right now. So with adding this, I think this is our last poll. What were the results here? So was it a 25% increase in the number of blog views per session that we got with changing it from the text link to the related imagery? Or was it between 25 and 75 or over 100?
A couple seconds. All right. And it looks like everybody chose B, between 25 and 75.
All right. So it wasn't mind-blowing, but we did see an increase. It was about an 11% increase in the number of blog posts per visitor that were on there. So where we normally were averaging, just over, just around 20, what we were doing, be able to kind of increase that up to about 25. So with that, some key takeaways. So what basically I want to get out of this is really to work smarter, work harder. Know that there's a lot of different technology things out there now. There's a lot of different plugins being created, a lot of smarter ways that technology can help. So figuring out, again, going back to what your goals are and everything, and making sure that you're utilizing the right tools to kind of help with that. You want to automate the simpler tasks, obviously, so you can make better use of your time with the things that matter most to your organization. And one thing too is that, less time can equal greater results. So just because you feel like now, if you've implemented something like this, you feel like you aren't spending as much time on something, doesn't mean that it can be successful. So definitely use these tools and don't be scared to use these tools, and don't feel like because you're relying on some of these tools that it's not going to work out or be great. And definitely trust the tools. And you should see some of the great results that we talked about today. So I'm going to leave you with this. Although I talked a lot about things as far as what you can implement and how it's going to help engage and increase what you're doing currently with your marketing efforts, the most significant barrier to marketing automation tasks really is the lack of an effective strategy. So going back to what I talked about before, making sure that you understand what your goals are and knowing what you're trying to accomplish before you just throw all 8 of these ideas out and hoping that it will work. So make sure that you really have an effective strategy in place first before you're jumping on any of this. And everybody likes free things. So there's more tools plus a download available. We'll send this link over in the follow-up email with the slides. But basically there's a digital strategy kit that's got things from how to plan budgets, how to outline your initiatives for the year, and different things like that within this kit, making sure you know who your audience is and how to gauge success. So a lot of great things there that you can go and download for free. So with that.
Right. So that will conclude today's webinar, and thank you, Sarah, for all that great information. And just to everyone else, you'll be receiving a follow-up email from us within the next day or so with a link to the full presentation, plus a link to that strategy kit download. And then just so you guys can save the date, our next webinar coming up is called The Complete Guide to LinkedIn Ads, and that's going to be happening on March 29th. A lot of changes have happened with LinkedIn in the past couple of months, so it's going to be extremely informative, and we hope you can attend. So invites will be going out for that soon, or you can always register by visiting our website. So on behalf of everyone here at Top Floor, thanks for joining us today, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you.